Coming up, Expedition Everest at Animal Kingdom. Welcome to the SeeWDW Near and Far podcast, where we explore perspectives of the Walt Disney World Resort from 10 to 1,000 miles away. I am Mike the Far in this equation.
And I'm John the Near.
All right, John, today we are going to talk about one of our mutual favorite rides, Expedition Everest. And we've been talking for a while about doing this one, so I'm excited to get into that one.
Yeah, I was going to say, and this is just a coincidence, but you know how I have my bonuses on TikTok now. I literally put an Everest video on this morning. I had one queued up because I'm looking for videos over a minute. It's up to 137,000 views just today. It's like... People love that ride. I don't know why. Even the TikTok people, which means, you know, the younger audience. So, yeah, 137,000. That is, that's a lot for, you know, since I did it like 10 o'clock this morning. So I'm hoping the kids are bored over the holiday weekend and fight with each other in the feed. That'll get the views up. They always fight about something.
Yeah.
I don't really get involved on TikTok.
I will tell you, I mean, the great thing about that particular attraction is the fact that it is it's an original ride. You know, it's not based on IP, and we'll get into that a little bit later, but the fact that young people are really into that attraction, it speaks well to you know, their future desires for attractions. So maybe everything won't become a Moana ride, you know, after all.
They don't know yet why they like it so much. That's the problem.
It takes a while, though. They'll figure it out.
Well, I don't know. Hopefully I'm around to see that part.
I hope so. I hope we both are.
People don't learn fast anymore. Well, hopefully AI learns what it is and tells them, and then that'll be the connection. AI will analyze why it's so successful, tell the younger generations why they like it, and then look, I never would have thought of that. So hopefully.
That's a good, let's hope so. So, pardon me. All right, so let's get into the history of Expedition Everest just a little bit, just briefly. The attraction was first a concept in the late 90s. The park needed a thrill ride to boost attendance, and the planned Asia Land at the time, which it wasn't fully built at that time, needed a major attraction. The attraction needed to be true to the theming of Animal Kingdom, which, again, no IP, and it had to meet up with the Joe Rohde standard of being authentic to the area it was supposed to come from. Construction began in 2003 with an opening of April 7th, 2006. The ride itself, very popular upon opening, and as John mentioned, it is still popular to this day.
Yeah, April 7th was my daughter's birthday too, and she loves Animal Kingdom.
Awesome. That'd be a heck of a birthday gift, in my opinion, riding that ride.
I just wanted, while we're talking about, you know, 2000, when did it open? 2007?
2006.
2006. All right. Yeah, this video is from like January 2007, and it's hard to see, but this is on the same YouTube channel you're watching now. If you're watching, see that, yeah, Yeti there. You know, if you thought it opened and his hand went, and that was a good one. And then, I just had a turn to ask if she saw it. But back then, I was working for just us, so I included more people. But anyway, I thought that was a cool one. I got to look close, but you can see the Yeti moving. So again, it's hard to see because those cameras didn't stabilize very well. I need to upload this into some newer software. Yeah, I can see them. They're reaching out. I remember thinking that was absolutely amazing because his hand reached towards you, and as you're going under, it really did look like he was this close to grabbing you. So. But anyway, sorry to disrupt.
No, not at all. I think that is, and we were going to do an overview of the ride experience. And I really believe that kind of sums it up, right? I mean, the fact that it did so many things that were so different compared to everything else that had been made at the time. They not only created this great story and crafted this authentic or seemingly authentic experience, but they also did this new thing with animatronics and special effects, so I think to me, that was the highlight of the ride originally. And I also remember the Yeti and when it was actually moving before it became Disco Yeti. So I think that's really important what you said there, John. And it's great that we have videos like yours to take us back to that.
Yeah, I wish I had a time machine with my current camera to get it there.
Right. I agree. I think we all would love that. But all right. So let's talk a little bit about the story of Expedition Everest. The inspiration itself for the ride is the legend of the Yeti, a mythical creature said to inhabit the Himalaya mountains. The attraction's story and theming draw heavily from this legend, creating an authentic experience that transports guests to the world of Himalayan exploration. The idea for the attraction began to take shape in the late 1990s when Disney executives began exploring the possibility of creating a new thrill ride for Disney's Animal Kingdom park. They wanted a ride that would appeal to a wide range of guests, while also fitting in with the park's overall theme of animal conservation and exploration. And I think that's important, John, because it wasn't just about finding the Yeti, and it wasn't just, it never has been, and I don't think everyone gets that. It was also about the conservation of the Yeti, protecting the Yeti and protecting the Himalaya mountains and the culture and the people of that area. It's a pretty heavy, particularly if you find the Yeti, making sure that he gets left alone.
Yeah, I mean, that's at this particular time, and I know we say it a lot, but I'm pretty sure that this was one of the last original rides, and it's part of the reason it actually was made to fit the park specifically. Like now, I don't think Disney's very concerned whether something fits the park in any way or fits the philosophy behind the park or anything else. So, but I think that's why I like it so much. That it fits that the end of an era, but it was a good era though.
Yeah, it was.
And the I was going to say the design team, they did such a good job. Like I saw videos of Joe Rohde and all the other Imagineers in the Himalayas and stuff, talking to locals, learning about talking to people who insisted that they saw the Yeti and describing what it looked like and all this stuff. And that's what they based it on. And they even bought loads of authentic artwork and decorations and whatever from there. And man, the queue and the surrounding area is just amazing with stuff that average people like us will never see in real life. So I may never see the Himalayas in real life, and what can you do? But man, I sure do appreciate the detail that went into the cues and such.
I totally agree. It's a very authentic experience. As the design team began to develop the ride, they looked for ways to incorporate the Yeti legend in a way that would be exciting and engaging for guests. They drew inspiration from a variety of sources, including traditional Himalayan architecture and artwork, as well as taking real-life expeditions to the region, just like you had said, John. And you can see that. You see not only evidence of their expeditions in that queue that you talked about, but you also see artifacts from other expeditions that had happened during or before they were doing their research. And actually, they've added some things since this attraction's been created. I always mention it when we talk about this ride on a podcast, but on the Discovery Channel, there is an archaeologist that does several shows. His name's Josh Gates. He's gotten quite popular over the last couple of years. And he actually did an expedition into the Himalayas looking for the Yeti. And there's like a little section in the queue that talks about that expedition and shows his picture and things. So, and he's a legit scientist, so it was pretty neat. That's always neat. I like seeing that, but
yeah, I like when they mix, real things with Disney Imagineering, like combine the two together. It makes the whole thing a lot more believable.
Yeah, it gives gravitas to everything, the story and the immersion that they're trying to create. So
yeah. I love like the big footprint they have in there.
Yeah.
Like that queue is just amazing. I've been through it hundreds of times, and lately the lines have been lower, so I don't spend much time there, but there's still so much to see. Like it's I really appreciate the sensory overload design. I still think that is the best and the most memorable and the most long lasting. So, and Universal knows it. I just went to the Jurassic Park 30th anniversary tribute store, and lots of stuff. A lot of stuff going on in there. And again, I see other people's pictures and posts, and I'm like, oh, I didn't even see that. That's what keeps you going back. So
absolutely, yeah.
And
gives you a new thing to it gives you a new thing to discover every time you go in there, right?
Yeah, I don't go through the I haven't been through the Fast Pass line in a long time too, but that's got its own display and pictures and stories. And I think if you look, I think that's the place where they have the picture of the Yeti that's in the ride, so that you can get a glimpse of it there, and you'll know it better when you see it.
Yeah, I love how they present that the story in the queue. It's almost like a museum, and there's a lot of tricks and things that they do to make you feel like you're climbing or going to elevation, even through the queue. Really, until I did single rider, I never realized how close the entry and exit of that attraction actually is to the queue, to where you enter the queue. It's right there. So it's just,
Yeah, I
it's
wanted to
shocking
mention
because it's
too.
really level, and they try and convince you that you're sort of going up through, the temple, where the offers are given to the Yeti and things with those statues. It gives you a feeling like you're going up in elevation in a way. And so it's like you're on a journey, but you're really not. You're just going really close
Yeah,
to where you
it's like
enter.
right next to the path. But
Yeah. So,
yeah, I was gonna say one thing I noticed in the queue too, and I think this was after it reopened from being shut down. There's a part of the queue, and if you actually spend more time in there, and of course I have videos, I have terabytes of stuff, so unfortunately I don't know where the heck they are. But if you look behind you and up in one of those rooms you go through in the queue, they actually have a ladder and bunk beds, and it's like a
mm.
loft area. It looks like people were sleeping up there, and I've only seen it like once or twice because normally you're walking and there's people behind you and you don't want to stop and you just go through. But like and all the times I've been through, I think I've actually stopped and looked at it once, and it's one of those times when everything was empty. So,
Hmm. Oh, that's great. Yeah, I've seen. I sort of remember that ladder, anyhow. Um, all right, so let's talk a little bit about how the story was developed. In developing the story for Expedition Everest, the Imagineers were to come up with a general concept for the ride. The design team wanted to create an immersive experience that would transport guests to the world of Himalayan exploration, with a focus on the legend of the Yeti. Of course, the team approached this much like a director, a writer, producers approach a movie. They started with from concept to storyboard, where they drew out the ride's narrative, creating sketches and drawings to help visualize how the story would unfold. They focused on creating a compelling and engaging storyline that would keep guests on the edge of their seat. Next, the team began to write an actual script, much like the movies, for the ride, which involved crafting dialogue for some of the characters that you hear in the queue. And, with those little movies and things like that they have for advertising, and as well as creating descriptive text for the ride's various scenes and effects. Team also focused on theming and design of the ride in this process, working to create a cohesive and authentic environment that would transport guests to the Himalayan mountains, with careful attention paid to the details of the ride's set design, props, and costumes. Finally, the team went through multiple rounds of refinement and iteration, tweaking the story and the design as needed in order to create the best possible experience for guests. This involved everything from adjusting the ride's special effects to fine-tuning the dialogue and pacing of the story. Now, what's interesting to me, John, is that they used movie methods to come up with this story. I don't really think they do that anymore for these attractions. I mean, they're using creatives from Hollywood.
I don't think they do that for movies anymore.
That's probably true. They definitely don't now with the writer's strike. Yeah, you're right. I think you're right, because there's a lot of adjustments made on the fly nowadays, and things are way different. And I don't know. I mean, the last really great ride that they did do, they actually had the director of the Guardians of the Galaxy involved in it, and helping to film. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it doesn't look like they're doing much more of this stuff. They're not doing a lot of it nowadays. So,
That's certainly not anything original.
Yeah, for sure. That's important. What that tells us is the Imagineers aren't really concerned anymore with mapping out story like they used to. Now, I'm not saying that, say, on the Splash Mountain replacement, the Tiana's ride, that they're not creating some kind of story, but they're not creating it in this type of sense. They're
I
just,
heard, I heard they need ingredients for a celebration. They're out looking for it. So
oh yeah, is that what they're?
heard.
That's how they're crafting. So that's the concept. That is the beginning concept that they came up with.
Not a movie I would watch, but
no, and that's what I keep saying is that how do you have a villain? And what's your villain? Time? Is the villain time, or is it? And that's the thing. Like, I don't think that they're creating, like, for example, the Tron ride. Look at that. It's a very, very, very loose storyline, right? Most people don't even understand what's going on. And, who's the villain? The orange team?
Nobody in my family understood it. But again, they're not big Tron fans or anything either. So,
well, what is so spectacular about Expedition Everest is there really isn't a villain, but you're kind of made to feel like they're like the Yeti is, but you're
you're the villain because
exactly.
You're trespassing in the Yeti's mountains. So
exactly,
you're lucky to be alive. You're lucky to get out alive. So that's the villain.
Exactly. That's where I was going with it. That it's designed to really make you think and then turn the mirror on you. So it's just an ingenious way of character development, of making you a part of the story. I don't think that they have done anything like this since. And so I'm just really impressed with even digging into this, it just becomes more and more impressive.
I was going to say too, and I forgot, but it's according to Google, it's still in the Guinness Book of World Records for the most expensive roller coaster, $100 million to make it.
I believe it. I believe that.
It was worth it though. It's they got their use out of it, and it's not getting any less popular. So.
I certainly agree. So let's talk about the role of Imagineers in bringing this story to life. One of the key contributions of Imagineers was in design and theming of the ride's set and environments. They worked to create a fully realized world of Himalayan exploration, complete with the detail and props, costume, set pieces that brought the guests into the story. They developed the characters that appear in the ride, including the expedition team and the Yeti. And that's something that people don't talk about. People talk about the Yeti, but there is an expedition team. And there's different hints about the expedition team in the queue that you are actually, as you travel through the queue, you pick up different things about that team. So there's a story there, right?
And right at this part is where you can hear him say, "Attention,
exactly.
Expedition Everest team members!" Like he literally is talking to you. And again, that's part of the story there. I don't know if you can hear it or not.
I can't hear it, but
oh, all right, but yeah, that's the part that if you didn't know it from the cue, it literally calls you Expedition Everest team member. So.
Yeah, and it's part of the story, and you can kind of see the packs in the background too, next to the train on the other side there. So it's again telling a story not just about the Yeti, but also the team itself. They actually created detailed backstories and personalities for each character, so you can see that throughout the ride if you really pay attention. This helped to make these characters, your expedition mates, more relatable, engaging for the guests. The development of the ride's special effects and technology, this was another thing that Imagineers had to invent things and had to really take a major part in, from the use of projection mapping to the creation of lifelike animatronics. The Imagineers played a crucial role in the overall storytelling and pacing of the ride, with extensive field research and the creation of an authentic experience. And we talk about this all the time, that this was, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, this was, besides the park, I would say this was the coup de grace for Joe Rohde. I mean, I know he wasn't, the only Imagineer involved in this ride, but his name is all over it, right? And this to me is like the culmination of his influence on Disney, on a park, on an attraction. So it's just an amazing Imagineer.
Yeah, I wanted to mention too the I don't know if if this was the first one, but this is the first roller coaster that I've ever been on where you can literally, that the track has to flip over and line up in order to change your direction. I know they use it all the time. And again, this may not have been the first, but it was the first one mainstream enough that it got my attention as to that track just flipped over now. And I know they use it all over the place for coasters, like to take them on and off tracks, but as part of the ride experience, though, I thought that was very unique, at least for me.
Yeah, and we're going to get to that a little bit in the design of the coaster. But the thing is, with that particular part of the ride, it's called a switchback, I believe. And that switchback was unique in that it was called a stealth switchback, which really, that was not happening. That's not something that was happening on other rides. It was hidden and it was a surprise. And for the most part, when you see a switchback on a roller coaster, it's coming, like you can see it. And, you hear it. In this particular attraction, they did everything they could to, overlay noise and grab your attention with the image mapping, the Yeti on the cave wall and everything, while that switchback was making the switch. So I agree, John, that is one of my favorite parts of the ride itself, because it's suspenseful, man. You don't know what's going on there at all.
Yeah, just like a week or two ago, my wife and I were on it, and we were at the part with the projected Yeti, and the train just sat there, and it was there probably for a good 40 seconds to a minute,
Yeah.
which is a long time for that. And I kept thinking, hopefully the switchback lined up properly. It makes me think, I hope they check that every night, because imagine if that thing was off when it let you go, you'd burst out of the top and roll out, I guess. I don't know, but I shouldn't think about stuff like that, but it makes me think you would come out here, it would just kind of throw you out and you'd roll down that hill, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't want to think about that.
What if the thing switches and it rolls? What if it wasn't quite lined up and you went off track and just? I'm sure they have redundant safety measures in there, so that will never happen. And but this ride has two switchbacks too. It's the one before you go backwards, and then the one when you go forward. So that's kind of unique. Yeah. You go up, you go back, and you go down again. So, and it makes the ride a lot longer with all those. Imagine this might be like a Tron length ride if it was just the track, and we'd all be going, what a short ride, But
that's a really great point. Yeah.
Switchbacks that build anticipation, and you can hear it crackling, and like I feel like at some of the parts the sound of the switchback adds to the ambiance story. Yeah. Like, sounds like the track is breaking or something,
Yep. I totally get that, especially when you're in the cave, and you're waiting for that switchback to happen. As it's happening, the Yeti is making its noise, and it blends in with that. It makes it louder, like it makes the experience louder. You might not always notice it unless you know what you're listening for, but I agree. It's it definitely adds to the uniqueness of this attraction. All right, let's talk about, speaking of which, the design of the ride. Challenges of designing a roller coaster with a complex story. I liked that title, so I kind of kept it in there in our outline, but it really is like this is a roller coaster with a complex story. The Imagineers had to be careful balancing storytelling and thrills. They wanted to create a ride that was both exciting and authentic, but they had to be careful not to sacrifice one for the other. They needed to find a way to integrate the story seamlessly into the ride experience without detracting from the thrill of the coaster itself. Another challenge was creating a cohesive narrative that made sense within the context of the ride. With a roller coaster, the ride experience is often disjointed, with guests moving quickly from one scene to the next. The Imagineers had to find a way to create a story that could be told in small segments but still made sense as a whole. The story of Expedition Everest relied heavily on special effects and technology, which presented its own set of challenges. Imagineers had to find a way to seamlessly integrate these effects into the ride experience and system without detracting from the storytelling or the coaster's thrills. And finally, the Imagineers had to ensure that the ride was accessible for guests of all ages and abilities. They needed to create a ride that was thrilling and exciting, but not so intense that it would be inaccessible for some guests. And I will say that no matter what you do, some guests aren't going to be able to ride, especially after they hear John's story of tumbling down the mountain after the switchback fails. So
yeah, that'll eliminate all the anxious people out there and the people that are nervous about rides. I gave them something to visualize.
you brought reality. You've immersed them into their horror.
It's never happened yet, so
that's true.
Probably won't. Like I said, they don't just make things safe, especially at Disney.
Yeah,
they have redundant safety, meaning if one thing, so much would have to go wrong to get to that point. That
yeah,
I would say it's close to impossible. Although they sure do cut back on maintenance a lot lately.
They do now, and that's part of why you were hung up there on that switchback for 40 seconds. And the thing is about the ride itself, the track, it was designed by the Imagineers, but with help of Vekoma coasters, which they use Vekoma a lot, and Vekoma has an amazing safety record. It's one of the leading coaster manufacturers for Europe and for, a lot of the big theme parks in the United States. So, I'm not sure, but I believe Universal has a number of Vekoma coasters as well. So, they have really great safety records. So, all right, let's talk a little bit about the track and how it was designed to fit the story. The layout of the coaster was designed to mimic a path of expedition through the Himalaya mountains. The coaster features steep climbs, sharp turns, and sudden drops that create a sense of excitement and adventure. The track was also designed to incorporate moments of suspense and surprise, such as the encounter with the Yeti. The theming of the ride was also incorporated into the design of the track. The coaster travels through a variety of environments, including a base camp, a temple, and a mountain peak. The track was designed to weave through these environments in a way that enhances the sense of immersion and makes guests feel they are actually exploring the Himalayas. We've talked before, John, about when you go through the temple, the bird sounds in the forests and everything around there, right?
Yeah, I for the first couple of years it was there, I thought that that bird sound was real, especially the birds as you first take off onto it, you can hear bird calling in the distance and stuff. I had no reason to think that was fake until like the third or fourth time it was the same thing. I was like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
that bird didn't, that's not the same bird making that noise.
Um, there's a part in some of this research that I didn't really remember or understand. And it's coming up here, and you tell me if you pick up on it, but the track was also designed to incorporate a number of special effects and theming elements that help to tell the story. For example, the track includes sections where guests pass through misty clouds, simulated snow and ice, and encounters with the Yeti animatronic. These elements help to enhance the storytelling and make the ride experience more engaging. The misty clouds part, I'm not really sure. I mean, I'm assuming that that's part of the paint that's blended in, or it might have been part. Maybe they tried to pipe in some of that early on, but I don't remember it.
There is clouds when you go up there, but you're not with them.
Yeah, right. It's like
I feel like that may have been an early effect, maybe.
I sort of remember them using some kind of like water or mist on this ride early on.
Because when you get up to the peak, imagine having the fog machines making fog up there, and then you see the ice mountains, and that would be amazing. Yeah. But again, they probably decided it broke down a lot. They don't need it. So I don't remember it. It wasn't there it wasn't in my 2007 video. So
there they are.
Yeah, there they are. The clouds. But I always want to yell at myself back in 2007. Just hold the camera, would you? Just stop. Because I notice in all my old videos, I'm going left, right, up, down, and there's no stabilization, and I'm just going everywhere. If I would have just focused somewhere and held it, it would be a lot more interesting,
with today's technology.
The bird in 2007, he was there. And he's still there. Well, and a while again, but I saw him maybe like a year ago.
Yeah, he disappeared for a long time, for a number of years, and then he came back. He
flew off.
Yeah, he did. It's actually his son. It's his son or daughter or something that returned.
Yeah, that adds to the story. The bird flew away.
In addition to track design, sound effects were also incorporated into ride experience to further enhance the storytelling. The coaster features a custom soundtrack that includes music, sound effects, and dialogue that help create a sense of tension, excitement, and adventure. For example, the birds we were talking about.
Now, you can hear the soundtrack at certain places. It's not as much music as it is just like eerie sounds and creaking, and you can hear the whistle blow of the train, and there's just ominous sounds coming. And I like that it's not a real sound. It's a real soundtrack, but completely custom made up. It's almost like hiring an orchestra to do the background music in a movie. It adds so much, but in this case, it just adds realism to it.
I do.
That could be a big part of why it's such a good ride too.
Yep, I agree with that. And actually, when you're in the temple, I pick up sometimes like what sort of sounds like some kind of music. Did you ever pick that up?
Yeah, right when you go through, you can hear it's like a
and the way they
going on in there,
the way they project the sound at you is really cool right there. It's like it's some kind of I don't know, sound cone that just disappears all of a sudden, and then you hear all this echo of the temple and things like that from there. So
hopefully they redo this ride soon and make it Moana. Just paint the track blue.
Don't encourage them.
Make it Moana. Paint water around. Don't worry about any custom anything. Just
It'll probably be that. What's the animal cartoon movie that they keep threatening us with putting into Animal Kingdom?
Zootopia.
Zootopia, yeah, they'll probably make a zoo. There's like a mountain in Zootopia, I think. So they'll probably try something with that. Let's hope not.
If Iger's still there, he'll do it because he doesn't even know what Everest is. He's never seen it or ridden it. He has no idea.
Well,
that's part of why Joe Rogan left. I think that comment burned right through him when he said nobody wants to ride a roller coaster based on India or something. Like that's literally he said something like that. And Joe
keep that in your pocket for the finish. We'll talk about that.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, I don't have anything specific, but we should talk about Iger's feeling on this ride then. So we need to always remind people that Iger's not your friend. He's the villain that didn't turn the mirror on himself. So, yeah.
I don't think he's very smart either. The guy who bought other talented companies and said, look, I bought Pixar. Look, I bought Star Wars. Look, I bought Marvel. Aren't I great? It's like any of us would, if we had a giant company, I could have told you that. Wow, Pixar's great. Too bad you don't own them. Star Wars is great. Too bad you don't own it. Marvel's unbelievable. Too bad you don't own it. It's like, I don't think it took a genius to come up with that.
Yep, I agree.
To run them into the ground, though, that takes a certain special.
That takes a special something or another. Yeah. All right, the special effects used to enhance the ride experience. One of the most notable special effects is the impressive animatronic figure of the Yeti, which no longer works. As riders approach the mountain, they encounter the towering figure of the Yeti, which used to lunge and swipe at passing trains. This animatronic used advanced technology to create realistic movements and add a thrilling element to the ride. Now it's just a disco thing with flashing lights behind it. But supposedly the reason they cannot fix this Yeti is because it's so integrated into the mountain that they'd have to take the top of the entire mountain off, shut the ride down for years, and then fix the stinking thing. So that's why they haven't done it, but supposedly.
Or it's expensive and they don't need to. So
I think that's more likely the case, in my opinion. So projection mapping technology is used on the ride to create a dynamic and immersive visual. For example, during the ride, guests pass through sections where projected images of snow and ice create the illusion of an icy cave. This technique helps to enhance the sense of being deep within the Himalayas.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, it's actually, you can see the ice cave as you go backwards at one point. It kind of, you can see that as you're, like I said, as you re-enter the cave from backwards, I believe. And there's a couple other instances like that you can see. So if you look here, see, well, maybe it's on the entrance. Maybe it's on the other way when you come out. No, there it is. That's kind of right there is what I was talking about.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, it's like a glowing blue
right.
Ice and stuff.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. You also see that on the, as you're exiting that. So, yeah, see how it's like right there and then it goes away like it does. So, a lot of that's projection mapping.
Yeah, you can see it right there where it ends.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's the switchback when the track right there. See it?
Oh, yeah, right here's the switchback.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Yeah.
I always wanted to get a good video of that, like of the exact of it flipping over. I saw other people got it, but it's weirdly hard to get, you know.
Oh yeah.
my arms aren't long either. Like I need to turn my phone around and put it up, and even then, I just can't. I can't see what's going on then. But
They do a good
yeah,
job of making that tunnel really dark, even, and that's why they use that projection mapping there, I believe. So, they also use dramatic lighting from dark and mysterious sections to vibrant and colorful scenes. This adds to the overall storytelling and heightens the sense of adventure. They use audio effects throughout the ride to enhance storytelling. This includes the background music, the ambient sounds, the special effects sounds to create a dynamic soundscape that accompanies the ride in various scenes. Environmental effects also add to the experience. As guests climb higher on the mountain, they encounter wind effects and misty clouds. So there's the cloud thing again. And I do remember, like I do kind of remember the wind, but I almost think that that's just going to elevation. So
yeah.
I don't know. Wasn't aware that they were trying to actually create that effect.
Yeah,
But
I didn't know either. Like I never noticed the effect. Although I have noticed it gets windy up there. But
yeah,
like you, I assumed it was because you're high up and you're between large objects, and wind
yeah,
tends to go around things like that and
yeah.
become more intense. But
Has to be something there. Probably next time I'll pay a little bit more attention to that when I go up there and see. But it's these effects that enhance the sense of realism and make the ride more engaging. So now let's go through, just do a quick walkthrough of the ride experience. John, we kind of already did this, but it starts with the you leave base camp with your tour, and you go through the temple, and then you ascend into the mountains, right?
yeah,
And all along this point in time, as you're ascending, and there's the temple itself, this is where all these sounds come in, and I just think that's an amazing part of the ride right there. Here is kind of where I start to feel the wind that they were talking about, and I don't know if they're doing that or what. Looks like there's different things mounted on the side walls here and there, so I don't know.
just
Maybe
don't
they're
think they
creating.
need it because you're
I
on a
don't.
roller coaster. You're up high. The wind's going to be there whether you want it to or not. So
Yeah. And of course, you get to the top of the mountain and the Yeti has broken the track. You don't necessarily know it's the Yeti, but the track has been broken. Now, off to the side of this, people often throw their hair ties.
I was just going to say that's the most important thing. I think you can see them here, 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 here. Like
Mhm.
if I on a lot of my newer videos, I would be up there, and as I wait, I would look over, and you could just see hair ties all over the place.
Yeah, and that's really cool. I love that people have kind of adopted that as a tradition.
Yeah, and until it gets lodged in the track.
Yeah, and then you tumble out the tunnel. So from the broken track, you descend backwards into the cave.
Actually, you would tumble backwards down.
You would.
You would go down into the darkness and just roll down.
Is it Gollum that awaits you or the Yeti? You never know. So just listen for my precious down there. And so you tumble into the dark backwards and down the track. And to some people, the uninitiated, so to speak, that may be a surprise because maybe you didn't expect to go backwards if you didn't know any better. But
a lot of people say too that that's the one thing they can't handle on this ride. It is intense. When you go backwards, you can feel the G forces, and it rattles you and shakes, and you can really feel it going back. I honestly think it's the most intense part of the ride because I don't feel anywhere near the G's as when I go forward down the big hill. So I don't know how steep it is because you can't see it, but it feels pretty intense.
It does. It definitely feels intense. Here you come to a stop at this last switchback on your video. This is where the projection effect of the Yeti is in the cave, and you can clearly see the Yeti ripping track up once again, sending you well on your way out of the cave. And again, while this is going on, a lot of the sound effects and special effects are kind of married together here. And, you know, along with the projection, the sound, everything. And that switchback becomes part of the background noise. Now, here is the drop. And you do feel like you're collecting some G's on this drop.
Yeah, it is pretty intense. But
it's pretty intense. But
I still feel like the backwards one is more, but again, maybe
I agree.
It's large backwards. But
I just think you're going so fast this way that it kind of picks up, you know, puts you back your seat a little bit. But it's exciting. It adds to the excitement itself. And then comes the Yeti.
It's good.
This is Disco Yeti this time, and this is what you will currently find, the light behind the Yeti. And then you return to base camp. So that's the ride itself. Again, not the best description, but you really got to ride it to really experience it itself. It's just an amazing ride. From base camp to base camp, it's just a thrill. All right. What are the key moments for you in the ride, John? For me, I would say it's the switchbacks and the Yeti itself, the two times, your two experiences with the Yeti, your visual experiences with the Yeti.
I would say that is, they're among the most memorable parts, but really the whole ride is just so good. And I don't know why. I don't think I'm alone, but a lot of people always remember this part too. And again, with the guy coming over the loudspeaker, just the little saying, and the way the track pulls up, the way it sounds, all the whatever the lap bars come up, and they are so fast at loading this ride, which is one of the reasons there's not a big line for it. You that gate opens, you go in, you hear the announcement probably within like 10-15 seconds, you're going. They just walk by and they grab the lap bar, check, and boom. It is so fast, and I often think about rides like this when I'm standing there waiting for Soarin' to start. I'm like, here we go again. It's like,
yeah,
unbuckle the belts again. Unbuckle. Susan doesn't know what to do with her bag. I don't know. Another guy sat on top of the belt and didn't buckle it. And it's like, I'm like, wait. We should do Soarin' sometime, but I can just say Soarin' used to be so much faster. When it was new, I feel like I went in, sat, checked, done, and now it's such a confusing thing. Like, I just, I think because older people realize they could do it, and they get confused easy. And I know because right. I'm getting more and more confused all the time. Yeah. Pretty soon I'll be in there going, I didn't buckle it right, undo it, so it won't be long.
And then it's the millennials' turn to complain about us old people.
Looking at me going,
It's those stupid Gen Xers again.
They shouldn't be allowed in
here. Yeah. All right, let's briefly talk about the public's reaction to Expedition Everest. Expedition Everest is often lauded by fans for its detailed theming and storytelling, Guests appreciate the attention to detail in the environments from the base camp to the mountain peak, as well as the incorporation of the Yeti legend itself. The ride's narrative and theming contribute to a sense of adventure and discovery, enhancing the overall experience. Many riders appreciate the coaster's mix of storytelling and thrills. Guests appreciate the use of the projection mapping and the special effects from lighting to audio that further enhance the ride's immersion. The combination of its theming, story, thrills, and special effects make it a popular choice among visitors, and that popularity is often reflected in longer wait times, indicating the high demand among park guests. Now, lately, that hasn't been as high, right? It's I don't know if it's aging a little bit, and so many people have rode it, or people are just intimidated, or people think it's going to be longer than it is, or it's just the park itself. The population of the park itself.
I think it's just the timing. I mean, for me, I tend to go at the end of the day, and the whole park is like the last time I went on, there was no line for Everest, but there was also a walk on for the safari. Try that at like 11 a.m. in the morning. It's like,
that's true.
And I was going to say another testimony to how much guests like it. My TikTok video is up to 150,000 views now. So it went from 137 to 150 while we were talking. People love this ride. And,
they certainly do.
You hear an awful lot about it's their favorite ride. And, although somebody says, did they get rid of the Yeti? I could have sworn you saw it on the ride. They watched my video and didn't even see the Yeti because it was just a flash, I guess.
So let's talk about the lasting legacy of Expedition Everest. And this is mostly me. As one of the last original non-IP rides from Disney, and with the current direction the company is going, and how Imagineering is going, Everest is likely going to be the last of a dying breed of attractions with no tie to movies or cartoons. This is likely the last attraction from a golden age of Imagineering in which WDI created an original story and crafted an attraction around it. Does that sum it up? I mean,
and they better. Well, I don't know if they're right or wrong, but all I can say is, if they want money from older guys like me, they're going to have to rethink that a little bit, because I'm not in a hurry to go ride a new princess ride. I'm just not. But these original ones are great. And if it has to be tied to a movie and IP, as a 48, 47, however old I am guy, I'll go to Universal, because if I have to have it tied to a movie, I'm going with Jurassic Park or King Kong or something like that. I'm not going to a princess cartoon made for 9-year-olds. So again, I'll still go to Disney. I like Disney, but if they want my money, they're going in the wrong direction with a lot of stuff.
Well,
they need a mix. You need both.
They do. You're right. That's
like Princess Fairy Tale Hall at the Magic Kingdom. I've never been in there. Mm-hmm. I probably never will. But it's probably full of little girls every day, which is awesome. But again, if they don't want my money, well, keep going the way you're going, because Epic Universe is full of cool IP. The Universal Monsters. Oh, everybody loves classic monsters. It's like, that's probably where my money will go if I had to make a choice. So if Universal's passes get too high, I'll be like, do I really need this expensive Disney pass?
Yeah. So I, as an example to back up what you're saying, let's think about the things like Space Mountain. And
I love Space Mountain.
Yeah, and Space Mountain will get retooled here and there, occasionally with effects and stuff like that, and maybe the queue, but it's essentially the same ride. You have the what's in Disneyland, the bobsled ride, the Matterhorn. You have Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. These rides, they don't have IP behind them, but They're timeless, and they're never going to change other than maybe a few tweaks here and there. You know, they're not going to be able to throw IP on them, but they're going to be timeless. Whereas, you know, Peter Pan's changed a couple times, and especially the queue is completely rearranged. The Winnie the Pooh ride was an overlay from a previous ride. They've tweaked the Snow White ride how many times? You know, how many times have they tweaked It's a Small World at Magic Kingdom? Not really a lot. It's an original IP. So a lot of these IP rides, they have to keep changing and rearranging to make them relevant to the current day. Whereas these rides that we're talking about, like Expedition Everest, they won't ever have to change it. It's always going to have a fan base and it's original IP. And same thing with Space Mountain, same thing with Big Thunder Mountain. You know, really Haunted Mansion and Pirates would have been relevant without the IP that they made. And honestly, most people didn't even watch the Jungle Cruise IP, so nobody cares about that.
I never saw that movie.
Yeah.
I never saw the Haunted Mansion movie either. I did see Pirates, which were
the Pirates movies were good, but those other movies you mentioned that we're talking about, they weren't that great.
Pirates. So, I should watch that again. That was such a good movie. I don't have Disney Plus though, so it'd be cheaper just to buy the movie. I'm sure I already own it anyway. That was years ago. I probably own it, but yeah. Unfortunately, I feel like the eye of Iger is going to focus on all these rides. He's going to be like, why isn't there IP here and there and there? And again, I don't think he ever even vacationed at Disney. He's a super rich guy who lived in super rich guy world. It isn't going to Disney parks with hordes of people. He's not gonna do that. So unless things change a lot at Disney, I have a feeling that the special rides are gonna go. So, and again, the Runaway Railway is holding up great.
It definitely has a strong lack of rewritability. And in fact, in Disneyland, from what I understand, the waits while the crowds are still there, the waits really aren't that long for that ride out there.
They literally thought that they would need virtual queue for a long time. And within like days, they're like, yeah, we don't need it anymore.
Yeah.
No, you don't, because I don't know why you would make a clone of a ride that's just okay across the country. You know, it's like most people say, "Oh, it's cute." It's like, right, but you don't need a clone of that one. Like that's not a cloning one. That's when you visit Disney World, you can ride it. You sure don't need it in your backyard in California too. So, and all the influencers made such a big deal about how great it was when they went out there, and it faded out, and inside of like 2 weeks, it went. Never hear about it again. It's like, what ride? It's like, oh yeah, that's there.
And the thing is, they have Toontown out there, and to me, Toontown the original was so much better than what that ride gives you. You know.
How about this? How often does Disney do their clones immediately before one's proven where it actually works?
Right.
Never.
That didn't happen.
And look what they're doing with the Princess and the Frog. They're like, we'll do it on both because we know it's going to be great. It's like, whenever you do that, it never worked out yet, Disney. But I'm sure this time it definitely will. You know, things are going so great for you already. You're on a winning streak. You might as well do it. So, just such a bad time. And this is a bad time in Disney history to change Epcot and Splash Mountain. So just a very, very bad time to do it. They both could be done, but I would have rather them been done at a time where, people like Joe Rohde were still there making awesome and putting awesome ideas in place, like that's just not there anymore.
By the way, people have contacted the police trying to find where Zach Ridley has gone. because the guy has disappeared. Like, he was the face of the Epcot transformation, and then as it got scaled back, he disappeared. I mean, the last thing you heard from was the Guardians of the Galaxy ride in like the middle or close to end stages, which if he was involved with that, I'm going to give him credit. I mean, that's a great attraction. In my opinion, that's probably the best attraction that Disney has created in years and years and years. I mean,
What was he involved with?
Well, I think he was, doing a lot of videos with the Epcot stuff, and he was, one of the last things I remember seeing him talk about was the Guardians of the Galaxy thing. But, he's kind of disappeared.
He designed the floors in there. So that was great. He talks a lot about floors. No, he posted on March 20th. So
yeah,
March, April, May. It's
been a while, right? Because he was the face of Imagineering for a little while there,
Yeah, well, I don't know. The way things have been going, I guess it didn't work out as good as they thought. But I was going to say, on the plus side, he still follows me. So
yeah, that's good.
He's all right. He's the best floor designer around. If I wanted an awesome floor, I'd call Zach Ridley.
Yeah. All right. Your final thoughts on Expedition Everest. Was that it, John?
My final thoughts are it's an awesome ride. One of the best at Disney World. One of the best all-round coasters ever. I almost hate to talk about it too much because my favorite things tend to get a lot of attention from the higher ups to, oh yeah, that is, let's change it. It's extremely popular. Let's change it. It's doing great. Let's change it. Wonders of Life. Leave it sitting empty. I don't know. Stitch building. Empty buildings are cool. We'll leave it sit. It's like, but a popular ride, they really would be tempted to come over and mess it up.
Yep, I totally agree with you. And the Eye of Iger, almost like the Eye of Sauron, is kind of doing his little looking around at different things to cut, and let's hope he keeps his eye off of this attraction. As you said earlier, he actually kind of said something somewhat offensive, I believe, to Joe Rohde about this particular roller coaster and about this attraction.
And he didn't say it specifically, but in making a point about IP and rides, he used an example of who would want to ride a roller coaster based on India or something. Like basically saying he don't even know what the heck it's based on, but it's not an IP. Who would want to ride it? And he was referring to Expedition Everest, and people were looking to get a comment from Joe Rohde about it. And I don't think he said anything specific, but I think it might even have been in a tweet or something, and he like retweeted it or something, like just letting everybody know, yeah, he sees what he said. He's aware. And then wasn't long until he retired. And then
yeah. It's probably one of the things that helped him realize that the company was in a different direction from where he was. So, all right, John, that should about do it for this one. Where can they find you online?
You can find me at SeeWDW on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube, and C.UO on Instagram and Facebook.
All right, and you can find me at The Giant Rat, TG Giant Rat, on Instagram, on YouTube, and on TikTok. And that should do it for this one. We will see you on the next one.